Welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're taking a look at The Crow Rider, the sequel to The Raven Cycle by Kalyn Josephson. Our listener provided the book, so we're going to really dig in and pull out the coolest stuff.
That sounds great. I love this book. It's going to be exciting to really break it down and treat it as its own separate reality.
Exactly. We won't be fact-checking against our world's history, but instead accepting everything in the book as fact.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get into. We've got political drama, some pretty intense magic, and a crow who can do some really wild things.
I know. Especially that magic system. It's so interesting. There's so much we don't know about the Cellas. I'm really excited to see what we can find out.
So let's start with Rodair. It's under attack.
Great.
Princess Anthea has escaped from Alucia, the enemy kingdom, with Rezaries, a crow she hatched from an egg. Now, Alucin forces are attacking Rodarian towns, trying to force her out of hiding.
It's really interesting how the author connects the bigger political story with what's happening to Anthea. She's not just running away, she's learning to be a leader, which is a huge responsibility, and there are tough decisions everywhere she turns.
There's this one scene I keep thinking about. Anthea finds a Rodarian town that looks completely empty.
Oh, yeah.
It's really eerie. And then you realize that the people are hiding, they're using illusions, so the illusions won't find them.
Right. It shows how tough the Rodarians are, but also how terrified they are. They have to go to extreme lengths just to stay alive.
And when it comes to extreme, we can't forget Rezaries. He's not your average crow.
Definitely not.
I mean, yeah, he's a storm crow so he can control the weather, but he could do even more than that. As the story goes on, he starts doing things no one's ever seen a storm crow do, like healing people and even bending metal with his mind.
That's where I think the Cellas are going to be really important. Stormcrows are already strong, sure, but healing and messing with metal, that's next level. I bet it means Rezaries is connected to the Cellas in a way we don't fully understand yet.
I can't wait to see how that connection plays out.
Mm.
But Anthea has a more pressing issue. She needs allies. So she goes to Trendel, a kingdom that's neutral, hoping to convince them to join her side.
It's not going to be easy, though.
It definitely won't. There's Elkona, a Jinde princess who is leading a rebellion against Alucia. She's really angry at Rodair for not helping them before.
Hmm.
And then there's Samra, the captain of the ship Anthea's on. She's from Ambriella, and she doesn't trust Rodair either.
Right.
So it's not enough for Anthea to simply say that Roselle, the Aleutian queen, is bad news. She's got to work through all these old grudges and suspicions if she wants to get everyone to team up.
It kind of makes you think that sometimes, even in a fantasy world, the biggest challenge isn't fighting monsters, but getting people to trust each other.
Oh, absolutely. And then it gets even more complicated. We meet this sailor named Onus, who's on Samra's ship. He's super superstitious, especially about crows and the Cellas.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he's really scared of Rezaries. And that fear leads him to do something terrible.
It'll happen.
He betrays Anthea. He tells Razel where she is, which sets off a terrifying attack at sea. It's a huge turning point because it reveals a massive secret about Anthea's family.
Oh, I remember this.
It turns out she has Sela ancestors.
Wow.
Yeah, which explains why she could hatch those crow eggs and probably why Rezaries is so powerful.
This changes everything. Now, Anthea is not just a princess fighting for her kingdom, but a descendant of these almost mythical beings. It's going to make her very powerful, but also very vulnerable.
Absolutely. Roselle already wants to control the crows and their magic. Now, knowing about the Sela bloodline, she's probably going to be obsessed with controlling Anthea too.
Oh, it's not good. I wonder what she'll do with that information.
Yeah, and how will this affect Anthea's search for allies? This deep dive is getting really interesting.
It definitely is. And before we move on, I want to talk about Anthea and Elkona. They start as rivals, even having this really intense sparring match. But that fight actually becomes a turning point.
That sparring match was crazy. They really went at it. It was rough. You could tell they were both holding back a lot of anger.
Yes, but you could also feel the respect growing between them. It was like they were starting to understand each other.
Exactly. It highlights how they're both struggling with being leaders. They're both fighting for their people, and they're both carrying a lot of pain. And I think that fight was a way for them to connect, even if it was through violence.
And throughout the book, we see this theme of people making choices, even in the middle of a war.
Oh, yeah.
Like Kylus, who's trying to move on from his past trauma, and Arison, who goes against his mother to help Anthea. It's a powerful reminder that even when things are awful, individual decisions can still make a difference.
You're right. It's those choices, those moments of bravery and kindness that offer a bit of hope.
Mm.
Speaking of bravery, we need to talk about what happens next.
So we left off with Anthea finding out she's got Sella blood in her.
I know, right?
It really throws everything for a loop. It's not just a political thing anymore. Now you've got ancient magic and bloodlines and the power to maybe change the whole world.
It's like the author dropped a bomb, and we're still reeling from it. It explains why she and Rezaries are so close and why he's so powerful, but it opens up a whole new can of worms.
Yeah, like what's Rizal gonna do now? We already knew she was obsessed with the crows and their magic, but now with this Sella bloodline thing, her plans are even creepier.
It's pretty scary when you think about it. Remember how she stole all those crow eggs from Rodaire? And she basically admitted she wants to remake the world in her own image. Now we have to wonder if she's been searching for someone like Anthea all along, someone with Sella blood that she could use to get what she wants.
It makes Anthea's mission to get Trendel on her side even more important. She needs all the help she can get, not just to fight Rizal's army, but to figure out this whole Sella magic thing and what it means for her.
It's tricky, right? She's trying to convince these leaders to join her, but she can't tell them her big secret. What if they find out and think she's dangerous? What if they see her as a weapon instead of an ally?
It really ramps up the tension. It's not just about armies fighting, it's about all these personal struggles and tough choices everyone has to make. Like Arison.
Oh, Eris.
He betrayed Anthea back in Lucia, but now he's risking everything to help her, warning her about his mother's plans. Can she trust him? Can we even trust him as readers?
He's so hard to read. He's torn between his mom and Anthea, caught in all these lies. It's really hard to figure out what he really wants. Is he actually trying to make things right, or is this just another one of his mom's tricks?
And then there's Estrel.
Estrel, the crow rider who trained Anthea.
Right. She's a tough one. She carries a lot of guilt from her past, from what happened in Eris. Things are rough between her and Anthea because of that shared trauma, but you can tell they care about each other, that there's this bond of responsibility between them.
Those scenes with them are intense. You can feel the weight of everything that's happened, all the things they don't say out loud, and yet they're so loyal to each other, so protective. It makes you wonder if maybe redemption isn't just about fixing your mistakes, but about letting the people you've hurt heal alongside you.
Yeah, it's a really layered relationship. It shows how important it is to connect with people, even when there's war and chaos all around. And speaking of complicated relationships, we've got to talk about Anthea and Elkona. At first, they're totally at odds, but then that sparring match changes things.
Oh man, that sparring match. It was more than just fighting. It was like a battle of wills.
Mm.
But even while they were going at it, you could see something else happening, like they were starting to get each other.
Exactly. They're both warriors, they're both in charge, and they both understand what it means to sacrifice for their people. In that moment, they see each other as equals, not as enemies.
That's such a pivotal moment for them. From then on, there's this foundation of respect between them. It's like a reminder that even in the worst situations, you can still find common ground and build bridges. And sometimes your enemies can become your strongest allies.
Right. And Anthea needs allies now more than ever. That meeting with Trendel is so tense. It's full of suspicion. Anthea has to convince them to unite against Rizal, but she's also tiptoeing.
Really risky game. If she fails, the consequences could be huge.
And it's not just about politics, it's about facing the past. Anona brings up how Rodaire didn't help Jinde when they were invaded. It's a valid point and a reminder of the old wounds and the mistrust that's been festering.
I know, it was a really tense moment.
Right, and Anthea can't just ignore it. She has to acknowledge those past mistakes. She can't change history, but she can act differently now, build something new based on cooperation and support.
She really puts her heart into it. You can tell she's sincere. She's not just ordering them around, she's appealing to their sense of fairness and their desire for a future without Rizal.
But then things get even messier when Elkona brings up Arison.
Oh, yeah.
He shows up and it's total chaos. Some people see him as a traitor, just another one of his mom's pawns. But others, like the Trendellan Queen, think he could actually help them fight Rizal. He knows all about the Aleutian army and his mother's strategies, but can they really trust him?
It's a big dilemma, and it forces Anthea to examine her own feelings. She wants to believe Arison wants to help, that he regrets what he did, but there's still a part of her that's guarded, that's still hurting.
It really raises the question of forgiveness. Can you truly forgive someone who's hurt you, especially when the stakes are so high? And even if you do forgive them, does that mean you have to trust them again?
That's a tough one.
It is. But one thing's for sure. If these kingdoms want to have a chance against Rizal, they have to find a way to work together to build trust, even if it's fragile.
Right. But as we've already seen, trust is a fragile thing. Just when it seems like Anthea might actually pull this alliance off, she discovers something about her own past that could ruin everything.
Oh, I remember this part.
Harrison tells her about the link between her family, their ability to hatch crow eggs, and their Sella ancestry. It's the secret that's been kept for generations.
Wow. So she finds out the truth.
Yeah, and it's both empowering and terrifying for her. It answers a lot of questions, but also puts a huge target on her back. If Roselle finds out, she won't rest until she controls Anthea and her powers.
It leaves Anthea in a really tough spot. There's hope, but also fear. She's facing a future full of danger and uncertainty, but she also has the chance to create a new destiny, not just for herself, but for her kingdom, and maybe even the whole region.
We're back, and things in the Crow Rider are about to get really intense. Anthea has managed to secure that alliance with Trendel, but it almost feels pointless when this fire-wielding Sella named Valis shows up.
It's a genius move by the author. Just when we think Anthea might actually have a chance, she throws this major curveball. A Sella, especially one with that kind of destructive power, changes everything.
And that Cell Road Anthea found in the Trendellan Palace. It's not just an ancient artifact. It's a real pathway, and what it leads to is terrifying.
Right. The road is connected to a whole network of them, and it turns out Roselle has been working with multiple Sellas, including the one who burned Eris all those years ago. This isn't just about conquering land anymore, it's personal. Anthea's facing the very being who caused so much pain for her and her people.
It's heartbreaking, and it gets worse. Roselle uses the Cella Road to launch a surprise attack on Eris, the Rodarian capital. It's devastating, and the battle that follows is a desperate fight for survival.
The stakes are higher than ever. We see Rezares pushing his magic to the absolute limit. Those alliances are really tested, and everyone is forced to make impossible choices. The battle for Eris is like a crucible, where everything they believe in, their loyalty and their bravery, is put to the test.
And there's a terrible price to pay. Elkona, who fought so bravely beside Anthea, is killed by one of Roselle's mercenaries. It's a crushing loss, a reminder that even the strongest warriors are vulnerable, and war leaves deep scars.
It's a huge turning point for Anthea. It fuels her anger and her determination to defeat Roselle, but it also makes her more determined to break this cycle of revenge that's consumed both kingdoms. She realizes that all this hate and killing will just lead to more suffering, and she refuses to let Elkona's death be meaningless.
In this moment of grief and determination, she gets some unexpected help from a very surprising source, Sheeran.
Oh, wow, Sharon. Arison's old friend, who's totally loyal to Roselle. He's been working against Anthea this whole time, but then something changes in him. He sees the destruction Roselle's causing, how little she cares about human life, and he realizes he's on the wrong side.
It's a powerful moment of redemption. He sees the monster Roselle has become, and he can't be part of it anymore. He chooses to go against her, risking his own life to help Anthea and maybe atone for his past mistakes.
It's really incredible. He helps Arison escape from his mother and then joins the fight against her, along with other Vikrin who've secretly stayed loyal to Arison. It's this glimmer of hope in all the darkness, showing how strong a person's conscience can be and how they can choose a different path even when it's hard.
It ties into this idea that runs through the whole book. Even among people who seem totally devoted to a bad cause, there are those who want something better, who are willing to stand up for what they believe in, even if it means defying the people they once served.
Absolutely. And that theme of hope really comes to a head in the final confrontation between Anthea and Roselle. It's a brutal, no-holds-barred fight where their willpower and their magic are pushed to the limit. But even as she's fighting for her life, grieving for the people she's lost, Anthea refuses to give in to the darkness and the desire for revenge.
It shows how much she's grown as a person and as a leader. She understands that killing Roselle won't bring anyone back or heal the wounds of the past. Real victory is about ending the cycle of violence, choosing a different future for her kingdom, one built on hope and healing, not hatred and bloodshed.
Exactly. And then, in a twist, it's not Anthea who defeats Roselle, but Arison. He steps in to protect Anthea, killing his own mother. It's a tragic, incredibly complicated act driven by love and despair.
It's such a powerful moment, so sad. It reminds us that even in victory, there are huge losses, and no one escapes war untouched. Arison's choice shows the immense weight of responsibility, the burden of protecting the people you love, even when it means making impossible choices.
Right. The book ends with this feeling of cautious optimism. The war is over, but the road to lasting peace is still unclear. Anthea becomes Queen of Rodair, and she's determined to build a better world for her people, where the crows are respected and their magic is used for good. She has Erison at her side, the alliance with Trendel and Jinde is still strong, and there's a spark of hope for a brighter future.
And we see that hope in the epilogue. Kaliza, the little girl who was rescued from Eris, discovers she has a connection to the crows, hinting that the crow riders will continue. The cycle of violence has been broken and a new generation is ready to reshape the world, learning from the past and striving for a more peaceful future.
Yes. But even with this new hope, the author leaves us with a bit of unease. Kiva goes to Korovi to find her mother, who's gone silent, and the shadow of the Sellas is still there. We don't really know what their motives are, and their power, even though it's dormant right now, reminds us that magic can be both a gift and a danger.
The Crow Rider is such a powerful and thought-provoking story. It's about war and hope and the importance of making connections, even when everything seems dark. It leaves us with unanswered questions, a sense of wonder and uncertainty. But most importantly, it reminds us that even in the darkest times, our choices, our relationships, and the hope we hold on to can shape history and create a brighter future. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Crow Rider. We hope you enjoyed exploring this intricate world with us. What resonated most with you? What questions are still swirling in your mind? We encourage you to keep thinking about these themes and to share your thoughts with us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking those connections that unite us all.